It's no secret in the FNAF theorist community that William Afton is the main villain of Five Nights at Freddy's and essentially pure evil. These are both well-known facts that everyone should know. But what if I told you that there's more to Afton than just that? That he's actually got an extreme fear of something so specific it might just prove, or at least strongly suggest, that he's not involved in the modern era of the FNAF lore. Before we start the video, I just want to make a quick announcement. This video is a greatly improved remake and re-evaluation of my first ever FNAF theory video, and the one that marks the 1-year anniversary of this channel. Thank you so much to everyone who supported my channel on the way to where we are now, and who helped me become a better creator. This video is dedicated to you, whether you're subscribed or not. Although, now that I think about it, the main focus of today's theory, apart from FNAF's narrative, will be Ultimate Custom Night, more specifically its characters, voice lines, and musical score. That's right, I think analyzing the music contained inside Ultimate Custom Night might help us determine the true fate of William Afton. And it's all because of one thing, the names of the songs themselves, as well as the themes and repeating motifs in the background. And while this might sound contrived and stupid, trust me, it's not. So whip out your flutes and sheet music, friends, because today's theory will be insane. The first piece of music I want to focus on today, and the one my first ever theory was all about, is Eisoptrophobia, the theme that plays on the character select screen of UCN. The music itself plays a deep, steady rhythm while the sound of a ticking clock plays over and over again. Unlike the other music in Ultimate Custom Night as far as I'm aware, this one loops perfectly, further leaning into the theme of an endless cycle. The name of the piece itself, as the name suggests, is a phobia. More specifically, Eisoptrophobia is the phobia of mirrors and your own reflection. It's actually pretty damn creepy to think that just looking at your own reflection and not recognizing yourself is something real people have to deal with. But here's the thing. It's not just real human beings that have this phobia. I think Afton has it too. If you listen to the Yellow Rabbit's theme in the FNAF movie, which is essentially William's theme, you'll hear that it sounds pretty similar to Eisoptrophobia. I'll play the two side by side so you see what I mean. Thus, with the connection between these two songs and the theme of Ultimate Custom Night being William's personal hell/purgatory, I think it's pretty safe to say that the title of the song is referring to a phobia that William has, the fear of his own reflection. But not in a literal sense. Rather, I think he's afraid of thinking about who he really is. A monster. A question many fans and theorists have had since Ultimate Custom Night released is why there are two versions of Afton in the game if we're quite literally playing as him. Well, I think I have the answer. Remember how I said this is William Afton's personal hell? Well, judging by many things we see scattered across the game, we can conclude he's being kept here by a child, one who's extremely angry at him for being the cause of said child's death. I won't discuss the identity of the child itself since last time I did that, things didn't go so great, but here's a video with my thoughts on it. Anyway, if this child, or the vengeful spirit, is trying to make William's time in hell as bad as possible, it would make sense that he or she would play on his worst fears and memories to shape his personal purgatory. This is where Springtrap and Scraptrap come in. Notice their death lines. Springtraps is a prolonged, distorted digital sound just like the one we hear when Afton disassembles the animatronics in the FNAF Free Follow Me minigames. Scraptraps are all reused lines from FNAF 6. So already, we can see a phenomenon happening here. The things Afton hears after being killed by different versions of himself are memories of the past. The memory of his painful death inside the Springlock suit and his revival of Springtrap and Fazbear's Fright, and later on in Pizza Sim. He's reflecting on the past. He's afraid of himself, that's why they're here. He's afraid of what he did in the past and wants to repent. But he can't. This is why the title song is called Eisoptrophobia. He knows he'll be stuck here forever, hence the looping music and ticking clock. But he wants forgiveness, even though he knows he will never get it. Afton's worst fear is reflecting on his past mistakes. He was probably a pretty proud man in life, and even in death, he doesn't want to think about the mistakes he made. The mistakes that landed him in the Ultimate Custom Night. This makes the cutscene of Mike looking into the mirror after getting scooped all the more poetic. Unlike William, he's atoning for his past mistakes and going out into the world to set things right, to kill his father and end his suffering. William was always too afraid of himself to accept the truth, that he was a twisted monster. You could even say that when he looked into the mirror, he saw the monster staring right back at him. Never mind, Twitter will get it. Another musical score from the game worth pointing out due to its name and motif is Sleep No More, which can play randomly during your time in the office. The motif is a constantly beating rhythm, similar to a heartbeat repeating over and over again steadily. This, together with the name of the piece, seems to imply William's actually still alive under the rubble of the pizza place while UCN is going on, with the vengeful spirit refusing to let him die, or sleep, and move on to the afterlife. This can go two ways. If you believe in Frights games, or the theory that the Fazbear Frights books take place in the same universe as the FNAF games, then this is pretty good evidence for William surviving the fire and going to Heracles Hospital, as we see in the story The Man in Room 1280. And if you don't, that he's being kept alive for the next decade or so until Security Breach, where Vanny finds him, infuses him with other animatronic parts of the Mimic, and puts him into the remnant-filled charging station to regenerate his strength and bring him back. But here's the thing. That theme of William being afraid of his own reflection that I brought up earlier isn't just a one-time thing exclusive to UCN. I think it's a pretty good reason for why Afton isn't glitch-trapped, the Mimic, or heck, even fully in control of Burntrap. I think William wants to stay dead and leave himself to the demons, as Old Man Consequences says in his UCN encounter. He's becoming aware of what he did while alive and decides to stop, not because he's suddenly good now, but because he's afraid of the consequences this might have for him, that his hell could become worse, that maybe, just maybe, if he stays in the Ultimate Custom Night, he could be redeemed. This is similar to the Tales from the Pizzaplex story Didophobia, which also has a phobia in its name, the phobia of repeating themes or things, where the main protagonist Rory is afraid to leave the experiment chamber he knows he's trapped in. An experiment chamber which, ironically enough, was created and managed by Afton. Afton is didophobic, he's afraid of this hell getting worse and repeating itself if he leaves. This is one of the many reasons why I think he's not Glitchtrap the Mimic, and so on. The Mimic is too simple to be Afton, and Glitchtrap is trying too hard to imitate him. It says his catchphrase in Princess Quest in a weird, unnatural way, badly recreates a Spring Bonnie suit and the murders he did, and so on. Afton is still stuck in hell. Also, I know this is lame because narrative satisfaction isn't evidence, but I like him remaining in UCN much more than him escaping only to die again. That feels pointless and contrived. A theory I've seen circulate around the community in the years since I put out the original version of this theory is the idea that the Tangle, or the blob from Security Breach and Ruin, is a physical manifestation of Ultimate Custom Night. Unfortunately, as cool as this is in theory, in practice it doesn't really make much sense. I've made an entire video about the blob, and I've said multiple times that the animatronics in it are the ones from FNAF AR, not the original ones. This thing is powered mainly by the remnant and agony the users of the Fazbear Funtime service collected, not anything else. Plus, it's piloted by a Funtime Freddy head, a character who isn't even an option in UCN, not a Golden Freddy one. After all, the fixed version of Golden Freddy does seem to be the ringleader of the Ultimate Custom Night hellscape, although that's up to debate. So as cool as it is, I really don't think the blob is a real version of Ultimate Custom Night or what it actually looks like in the real world. The voice lines in Ultimate Custom Night are also very final. They all say that now that they've got their hands on William, they'll never let him go. It feels awkward to just let William go for no reason, instead of leaving him down there with his creations while the new era of the story falls out above. I think the Afton we knew is dead. Even if Burntrap is his corpse, his mind isn't there anymore. Burntrap is just a brainless husk with some mimic juice poured inside him. The real consciousness of Afton is still in his own personal hell, no matter where he is or when. The vengeful spirit, as we see in The Man in Room 1280, has latched onto his soul or mind, and will follow him forever. To add more to the theme of UCN being a reflection of Afton and thus his living nightmare, the two series of intermission cutscenes we see after getting certain high scores in the game, Bear Vengeance and Toy Chica the high school years, both seem to show a certain phase of William Afton's life, with the Toy Chica cutscenes depicting how he killed his various victims, and Bear Vengeance portraying his dynamic with Michael, represented by the Mangle, and his rivalry with Henry Emily, or the Bear of Vengeance. The final intermission of Golden Freddy also depicts one of, if not the worst things he ever did to one of his victims. He trapped the 5th MCI kid inside a Golden Freddy Springlock suit and forced the Springlocks to go off. Further evidence for what I dub the UCN reflection theory are Nightmare's voice lines, specifically with the one where he says, "I am your wickedness made flesh." Nightmare is an alternate version of Nightmarion, who appears on the game's cover and icon, so Ultimate Custom Night could literally be Afton's wickedness made flesh, or given physical or mental form inside his mind as the animatronics hunt him down for his sins. Other voice lines also reference Afton's past, what he did, and what led to his fate trapped inside the office, such as Nightmare Fredbear with "Let me put you back together and tear you apart all over again," referencing the promise he made to the crying child at the end of FNAF 4. All these different points combined create a pretty cool narrative of a hell tailored around William's worst fear, himself. Everything he sees here, all of the offices, animatronics, sentences, objects, everything, are taken from his life as a monster, twisted into a horrifying hell he'll be trapped in, at least we hope, until the end of time. Thanks for watching. 1 year is honestly an insane amount of time to be doing the channel, and although I feel like I only started taking it seriously this year, like a couple months ago, I'm still happy with all the work I did over this time. If this video is a bit short, that's because I didn't want to stretch what was originally a 6 or 7 minute video into a 12 to 13 minute one just for watch time. I wanted to tell the story I wanted to tell in my first ever theory, but better with new points and evidence and with more experience on making theories, videos, and scripts. So dear theorists, I hope you enjoyed, and remember to like and subscribe. But most importantly, keep on theorizing and never stop overthinking. This has been Withered Circle, the Midnight Theorist.